Okay. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this. Hopefully, you guys can hear me and see me. This is not my first time doing this, but every time I do it, I just pray that it works out the way that I want it to. So, hopefully, you're seeing what I'm seeing here on my screen. Um, Point of this video is kind of just to educate you guys on why I'm doing what I'm doing and how my time in the weight room will hopefully transfer over to the field for you guys. This is something I would love to do with every team. I don't feel that every team would necessarily care enough to watch the videos or be worth the time, in complete honesty. But I think that your coaching staff would really benefit from it and sees the point in it. So, I'd like to just educate you guys on why we do what we do and get the value out of strength training. So, this is the varsity girls program. I did make a JV program, and after talking with Coach Blair, it was just kind of evident that I'm going to have some girls that maybe have never even picked up a weight and aren't going to be able to perform all of the same movements as some of these girls that have been in the weight room for years or recent months. So, also talking, you guys are going to compete on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So, we're going to lift Wednesdays, Fridays. I want that Wednesday day to be as low fatiguing as possible and try to create zero muscular soreness, especially in the lower half. So the emphasis on Wednesdays is power. We're not really going to touch a ton of strength. It's going to be a ton of power work, things that are high velocity, high effort, but there's not enough weight and tension to necessarily create muscle soreness. So this first block, depth drop to box jump, they're on the benches in the weight room. They're going to drop and literally let their body fall. And then they're coached to immediately, as soon as they come in contact with the ground, spring up off the ground onto a box. The whole point of this is power is about creating force fast. We're training what's called the fast stretch shortening cycle, trying to get their bodies to produce force faster than they're used to, come in contact with the ground, get up off of it. That correlates to cut speeds, sprint speeds, all that sort of fun stuff. So paired with that is a banded sign lying hip abduction. All that's doing is just activating that top part of the glute that is really in control of knee cave. So we see a lot of knee cave with athletes of all ages and genders, but it's really, really prevalent in underdeveloped girls, and it's a huge issue in underdeveloped girls because that dynamic knee valgus is a huge issue when it comes to tearing ACLs and other knee-related injuries. Girls are also at a disadvantage because of their hip structure, so it's an extra emphasis. Going into that second block, we have another explosive-like exercise with a banded broad jump. So the depth jump to a box jump is going to be a lot of vertical power. The banded broad jump is horizontal power with some extra resistance from the band. They're going to pair a half kneeling adductor rocker. I'll just pull up a video of that quick. So all that is a loaded mobility stretch, basically. And the point of that is really just, hey, I'm getting what I want to train out of the power, but I need to give you guys also some mobility and specialization work in areas that we really care about. So adductors, hips, ankles, we got to keep those areas healthy throughout the long season. So that's the point of that. This dorsiflexion with a TheraBand. So toes up towards your knee is dorsiflexion. Toes down to the ground is plantar flexion. So why would we put a band around our foot and pull our toes towards our knees? Shin splints, it's a very dynamic and complex issue, but there is some research supporting if your anterior tibialis, the muscle on the front part of your leg, opposite of your gastroc or your calf, if you're if the front side, that big muscle on the front side of your leg, if that's strong, it may help with some of the load going onto your tibia and fibula, causing shin splints. So we're going to pair that in there. And then this last block, we are going to touch just a tiny bit of strength, but nothing super fatiguing. So we're going to do some pull-ups, upper body, shouldn't be that big of an issue, and then some barbell hip thrusts. Nothing like a squat or a trap bar deadlift that should cause a ton of muscular soreness. We're going to emphasize velocity on these hip thrusts and really getting our hips up and through for that hip extension strength, which is super important in any athletic movement, but especially kicking. So that's day one. Day two, Phil will load for me here. Day two is our Friday lifts, and Friday lifts are going to be heavy. They're going to be intentionally harder because I know that they're going to have the entire weekend to recover. So I'm going to be able to push them a little bit harder on a Friday. And when we're in season, we want to train for strength and for power. Towards the end of the season, we're not going to get any stronger, but I want to try to maintain that strength as much as possible. And for some of these younger girls, we got to try to build it as well because they don't have a good base to begin with. With the varsity girls and some of these older girls, we're just going to try to keep them healthy and maintain strength. It won't be as much about maxing out or whatever. Like we're not going to be doing that in season, especially not in an aerobic sport like soccer. It's not really feasible. So we are going to start with something power related. Again, strength and power. We're always going to do something power. A dumbbell squat jump is literally just a loaded vertical jump, working on creating vertical power as much as possible with some even above body weight by holding onto some dumbbells. This banded TKE, if you've never seen that before, it's a huge patellar tendon exercise that is, again, hopefully going to keep so it's literally them just putting their leg in a band and letting their knee travel over their toe and then pull back for some extra patellar tendon strength, which is absolutely critical in a soccer player because of how much you guys are extending. We need that patellar tendon to have some robustness to it. So that'll be paired with that. Then we are going to work into some more meat and potatoes type exercises with a dumbbell bench press and an RDL. You will always see me focus more on glute and hamstring with soccer players because you guys are super, super quad dominant. And we have this wonderful thing called the quad to hamstring ratio, where if your quads are exponentially stronger than your hamstrings, you therefore have a deficit that exposes you to a higher risk of ACL tears. So I know over the course of a soccer season, you are going to get plenty of quad work. So I'm going to put a very large emphasis on as much glute and hamstring stuff as possible. Doesn't mean we're not going to do any quad work because that's lower push work and we need to do lower push, but just not as much. So speak of the devil right here, trap bar deadlift. Yes, this is lower push. Yes, this is going to be a ton of quad work. But I don't train muscle groups. I train movement patterns. So when I'm talking about movement patterns, I have my lower body pull with the RDL. I'm going to do a lower body push with the trap bar deadlift. This is about the creme de la creme of lower body strength exercises. So even more than training lower push, lower pull, this is just great for developing strength. And it's a key metric that I use to gauge performance. And that'll be paired with an upper body pull. So you'll see here we have lower body pull, upper body push. We just flip them. Lower body push, upper body pull. I try to hit one of those categories in each lift. Down here, we have another patellar tendon exercise. These long duration isometric holds have been shown, if you do them over 6 to 8 weeks time, those long duration isometric holds are really good for building that robustness in a tendon and forming extra collagen fibers to really create the stiffness of the tendon and general tendon health. So that's kind of that. I realized that this was kind of a lot at once. I tried to get to the point and not over explain, but also make sure you guys have an idea what's going on and why. I would love to have a conversation more in depth if you have questions, but again, just trying to be relatively efficient in our time. As far as the JV program goes, it's going to be very similar stuff. I think the Wednesday is like exactly the same thing, except I think I switched barbell RDL to a dumbbell RDL, so just a minor change like that. But it's going to be a lot of the same stuff, just maybe not as high intensity, high volume, and some of the movements are a little bit less demanding. Because I have no idea what some of these girls are going to be capable of. So, yeah, dumbbell hip thrust rather than a barbell hip thrust there. It looks like everything else is pretty much the same because those are power movements are kind of power movements. There's not much I can really do to regress those. And then on this day, yep, same in block 1. Dumbbell rather than barbell RDL. A little bit easier biomechanically. They are going to trap our deadlift. I need every athlete that comes through my room to be able to trap our deadlift. So, yeah, just some minor exercise changes and some prescription changes, but in general, kind of the same concept. So, hopefully that makes sense. If you guys have any questions, would love to talk and make sure you're on the same page and see the benefit of why they're doing what they're doing in my room. So, thank you guys. I appreciate it.